Hey folks, we are live now with the Just Another Fanboy live stream. This is me, your host, Steven. How's everybody doing? I have another special guest. I seem to say that every single week because I'm always so excited about the people that I have on. But today we're talking to singer, songwriter, musician, all-around swell fella, Kyle Stevens, also known as Kirby Krackle. How's it going?
How are you, man? Thanks for having me.
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. Just made breakfast for the ladies. Gonna make nerd talk for you.
Right on. It's a good day. You just went out. Oh, you muted. Hold on. Let me see if I can unmute you. Your mic is not connected.
Sounds real good.
It's saying that your mic is not connected for some reason. You can hear him?
Yeah. Tell him to say something. Well, not now.
Okay.
No, not now. Earlier, yes.
Yeah, it says your mic is not connected. It was connected,
Yes.
and now it is no longer connected.
I could hear him right away, but not now.
Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you.
Check. 1, 2.
There we go. Now we got you. I can hear you.
And now
Can you
I
hear
can't
me?
hear you.
Now you can't hear me. That's weird. Because I can hear.
Check.
you.
Can't hear. We're gonna figure this out.
This is live stream, baby. This is what happens when we go live.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, that's what happens when we live stream.
It is.
Got to keep it exciting.
I know that hasn't happened to me yet in 2021, so we got that out of the way. Now,
Well, all right, yeah. Early enough in the year, get that out of the way. Never happen again the rest of the year.
Never, ever.
So I wanted to mention real quick, something kind of funny happened to me today. When I was getting ready for this, I had put on my Kirby Krackle playlist, and the very first song that came up was Cozy Pants O'Clock.
Oh yeah,
And it's one of my favorites. And I remember after that album came out, that was like 2013.
yeah.
And
yeah.
I would come home from work, and I would we'd do dinner, we'd get all the stuff done that we needed to do during the evening, and once all the responsibilities were done, I would literally tell my wife, it's Cozy Pants O'Clock.
Oh, nice.
But now it's just Cozy Pants O'Clock all the time.
It's cozy pants 24/7.
That's right.
And do you even really need to wear pants?
Well,
Yeah.
the family doesn't want to see me walking around with no pants on.
I think that's like the last line of mystique in a relationship in this past
Yes.
year, right? Where you could not wear pants. There's no one saying you have to, but you want to stay your best dressed
Yes.
with cozy pants. That counts
Yes.
as formal wear, I think, at this point.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So how you holding up during the pandemic?
You know, man, my wife and I were just talking about, like, real talk. It was 3 months to 3 months, and then it's month to month and week to week. And it's day by day, brother. Like, to be honest, taking care of a 4-year-old full time.
Yeah.
Big lessons to be learned in knowing when to say I need a break, knowing being in the moment. I think that's one of the biggest gifts of this time is, should we all learn to live to be in a moment this much more? I think that's a real positive thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's just made my wife and my daughter and I, now our dog, like, just really bonded in a new way. And that's a real good thing. Cause I mean, all of us in our homes, we've been through the trenches together. Right. And it's like, I just think it's very fascinating to see. And I don't think we'll really know till years from now, really how this all changed us.
Yeah.
In many ways. How about you? What do you guys, how is this week for you?
It's been, well,
this week is shitty.
yeah, it's been a pretty weird week. It's been
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Yes, it
But
has.
as far as the being home with the family, it's fine. You know, I'm one of those folks that I'm typically pretty antisocial in the first place. So for me to be home all the time and not have to talk to folks and go out and be among people, it's pretty much my idea of heaven. Now, my wife is very social.
Okay.
So she has a tough time with it every now and then, but We're hanging in there. I think this is a real test when it comes to relationships and families and couples and having to be somewhat forced to be together. It's like you said, you either bond or it goes the wrong way. And so far it's going the right way.
That's great, and that's good to hear. So I find it surprising that you feel like you're not a social person, because I feel like you're very social. Or this is your this is your lane. This is your lane,
Yeah.
What you choose to
Yeah,
be
this
social.
is different. Hold on just a second.
I don't know how to send messages through it or whatever, but will you please let people know that we are intentionally keeping up our Christmas tree
Okay.
as long as we want to remind ourselves of non-material blessings throughout the year. It's not because we lazy.
If nobody heard that, yes, the Christmas tree is still up.
On purpose.
We've left it up on purpose
To remind us of our non-material blessings.
to remind
Hell
us
yeah.
of our non-material blessings. Yes.
Hell yeah.
Ta-da.
And also, we need all the joy we can get. And if that means
Exactly.
Christmas 24/7, that's what it means, I think. Mm-hmm. Now, do you?
I agree. So, I mean, just physically, it looks like you've just embraced the quarantine, because you were like this fresh-faced young man, and now you're got the long hair, got the beard.
Now I'm a broken dad. I was a broken dad. I was a broken dad before, but now my outside looks like my inside. No, yeah, I don't know. I just like, so much time went by where I didn't get a haircut,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, let's just see what happens. So yeah, it's the longest I've ever had my hair in my life, and the beard is like, I'm day to day on that too, but I'm just going. I keep, as mentally and physically, we're in the bonus rounds of bonus rounds now, I think. So what exists out in the nebulous ether? Let's keep chasing that.
Yeah.
I also do I do weddings for corporate events and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I don't know if they want this guy showing up, but it's who they're gonna get. So
Yeah.
it's there's no rules, baby.
Nice. So let's talk about Kirby Krackle for a
Yeah.
second. First of all, how did you get into music? How was music introduced into your life? What made you want to? I guess I'm assuming you picked up a guitar first. That was your first thing, or
Yeah. I've said in podcasts often that I didn't like music when I grew up. I don't know why. I just wasn't into it. I think I kind of had had a lot of my dad left when I was little, so it was just like not like a happy little dude, right?
Mhm.
For a long time, and I just wasn't really into pop music. I don't know. Pop music wasn't really a thing that communicated to me, and that was something that my mom played all the time. But then, when I was like 11, 12, 13 is when the Seattle kind of grunge scene hit, Seattle music scene. And for whatever reason, that clicked to me of, I loved those sounds. I liked the visuals that I saw. And I wanted to try guitar, because I was of the age where a lot of other dudes I was doing sports with were getting a lot bigger than I was earlier, and they were getting a lot faster and would throw the ball harder. And I was just like way out of my comfort zone. Like, sports was just something that I just did, like kind of every American kid's just kind of pushed to do, because that's the path of least resistance, I guess, in activities, right? Or it was in like the mid 80s. And so my uncle gave me my first guitar, and I was just hooked. I felt like, that's something I could do. It's something that felt like it was mine to me.
yeah. Nice. And so then, how did Kirby Krackle come to be?
Kirby Krackle came to be after I was in a band from 13 to 24 called Layman's Terms in Seattle. And we were kind of like the big all ages Seattle band kind of around here. We'd play bars before you were even allowed to be in bars, right? Well, we played bars like when we were like 18 years old. They'd bring us in right when it was time to play and make us leave right afterwards and bring all our gear out. So I did that for a long time. I was always into comics, and but I always like put little like superhero references in my songs that were just for me.
Yeah.
And then when that band broke up when I was 24, I dabbled in some other stuff, but I really thought about, what if you could make songs about superheroes that weren't, at least in my opinion, the definition of cheesy, right? Like not a joke, but taking what I wish I could do if I was a comic book artist or a comic book writer and put that in what I felt I could do, music and lyrical form. So that's kind of how that became. And it was just like this kind of one-off, really fun, laser-focused experiment on the first record, and wasn't even thinking about the second record at all. And then when the first record did more in like 3 months than any of my music had ever done in terms of getting it out there, in years prior, then I just decided that, okay, I'm all in on this.
Yeah, I mean, you found a niche that not a lot of people were doing. You know, being a nerd myself, whenever I would come across just a rock and roll song that mentioned Superman or Batman or anything, it's like, it just blew my mind. It was the coolest thing. Do you remember the Spin Doctors song "Pocket Full of Kryptonite"?
Yeah.
That just,
I look like that
like,
guy now.
holy crap. Well, that's true. Yes, you do. Doing the Spin Doctors guy dance. But yeah, I think you just kind of found something that people were wanting and weren't getting. And it's like one of those things, you got to kind of be in the right place at the right time. You got to find what people are, it's almost like you got to predict what people want and then just give it to them. And most people kind of stumble on that.
Yeah. I wish I could say I predicted it. I just did what kind of, I think it was the right place, right time for me, you know, to do it. And then I feel like if that communicated that to other people who were in that right place to receive it, then that's how I think maybe it worked out.
Yeah.
In a way. Because it was, I mean, it shows, and I know this, but I don't consciously think it all the time. I should do it more, that if you do what is really like just kind of working for you, right, in terms of your artistic vision, and you're like, I don't care about making anyone happy with this. This is just about me and how my fulfillment artistically might work out with it, then I think that translates, of course, more than anything you could do to be pandering, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. So that first album, this just called Kirby Krackle, is that is there an actual band on that album, or are those like electronic drums? And
those are electronic drums. So that was all done in GarageBand. So
Nice.
if anyone wonders if GarageBand is just kind of like, you know, too simple, like that whole thing was just done in GarageBand in my studio in Seattle. And the band at that time, before I got the live band, was myself and my then business partner, Jim Demonakos, who, of course, people know from the early Kirby Krackle albums. He ran Emerald City Comic Con forever. And now he does the Spin Rack products that he has, and also dabbles in other shows. So that was he and I just like laughing and sitting around writing lyrics. And he always wanted to dabble in the music world, and I always wanted to be a part of the comic world officially. So that was our Venn diagram crossover
Nice.
of how we you know, happily and voluntarily used each other's skills in that way.
Nice. And so now, did you say you're in the Seattle area?
Yeah.
Nice. I used to be a musician.
Okay.
By say in my previous life, because I haven't played in a long time, but between 86 and 2002, I was a drummer.
Oh, cool.
But it's like I've never been able to sit down and just say, you know what, I'm just going to do an album by myself. Yeah. And the nice thing but back then, I mean, you could if you knew how to play all the instruments, but nowadays it's a lot easier. I mean, let's just jump ahead. One of your last albums, I think it was your last album, the Suburban Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just all acoustic. Was that just you just sitting in your studio, just playing and singing?
Yeah, it was me. I had a slow year financially with Kirby Krackle, where I was wanting to do another record, but financially, like going to the big studio wasn't working out. And so that was something that I could say just falls into the just for me category, where I had all these songs that that maybe I wanted to take to the band, or some things I wanted to say that weren't necessarily comic related, and fall into the category of people know my music of like Parachute or Open Up Your Window or Needing a Miracle, stuff like that I feel like people have received and maybe now come to expect as part of the Kirby Krackle catalog, where it's not all nerdy stuff. It's also about life. As we get older, of course, it's not all about nerdy stuff. It's about life. So that was just a whole record about life. And yeah, it was just one acoustic, one guitar, a lot of times just like a single pass, and purposefully not wanting to put a lot of instrumentation on it, to just say, okay, what's the most raw thing I could do? And actually written, a lot of times you do a record and you figure out, well, how are you going to perform this? So what I did is I booked my CD release show, which is not something you usually want to do in case, something bad happens and you don't get them in time, or your album doesn't come out in time. I booked that and I gave myself the goal. So I knew it was just going to be me on stage. So let's write songs just for that experience. And it was kind of like this one-off here you go, enjoy it. It's a little different, but it's there for you guys.
Nice. It's a good album. You know, it's one of those albums that when I was a kid, I probably would have, you know, when I was a teenager, I probably would have went, psh, acoustic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, I listened to it and it's really good. There's something about the sound of just an acoustic guitar that just really, it kind of digs in deep and just takes a hold of something inside of me. Just even the sound of the fingers just sliding up and down, that squeaky sound up and down the strings. I just love that. Just love it so much.
Thanks, man. I love that. I love that too. And my producer who does my records for me, usually he says, you know, you could have done that here and I could have taken the squeak out. I was like, no, I want everything.
Yeah.
Like you can hear like a door closing in the background on some songs. And that was just an exercise in letting go.
Yeah.
You know? And before we move on, may I dare say that I think you're still a musician, because if you were at one point, you always are. You know, if you pick up the sticks, you know, that's always a part of you. And it's there for you should you choose to do it. But I still count you as a rocker. So
thank you. Thank you. Though I will say a couple of years ago, because my youngest, she is in the high school band, or at least she was when they were actually attending school.
Cool.
And we went in for a parent teacher conference and they had a drum set up in the band room and they were like, go play. And like, I haven't sat behind a set in 15 years. And I sat down and it's like I could do it. Give me an hour and it'll all come back to me. But just jumping behind it, it was not the same as it used to be. But
yeah, you get the neurons reconnected and everything back in there, and then it all be unlocked for you.
It's like the muscles knew what they were supposed to do, but they weren't quite sure how to do it yet. So
yeah.
Here's a VH1's Kirby Krackle Unplugged.
Kirby Krackle Unplugged. I love the Unplugged series, man. I just watched the Alice in Chains one the other day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A good. I got chills thinking about that. Live, you remember that band Live?
I do.
Yeah, they had an amazing Unplugged. That's the first time I saw someone playing with rods, you know, and just really a lot of cool stuff came out of that series. Lots.
That's my stepdaughter.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary. She goes by Abby. Hi, Abby. So, I just recently watched Pearl Jam on Unplugged, and that was amazing. Mm-hmm. That's some good stuff. So the Kirby Krackle band, when you actually have a band, when you're playing live, when you're in the studio, those are they all the same guys every time?
If you think the first record's just me, the second record, I played everything except the bass. No, I'm sorry, I played the bass. I didn't do the drums or the keyboard. Then Superpowered Love, Sounds Like You, Mutate Baby are all the same guys. And then I have an entirely new group of people since then. There's been some overlap. We had a second guitar player for a while because I just wanted to do the frontman thing and get better at that and explore that. And then my lead guitar, Patrick, got a little too busy, and then CJ stepped into his parts and I went back to my parts. So it's a good group of guys who always kind of have been around, who know each other, who are friends, that kind of thing. So
shout them out. Who's all in the Kirby Krackle band at this point?
Yeah, so it's Jeff Gall. He's on Instagram at Jeff Gall Music. CJ Stout, who's my guitar player, and he's become kind of like a bigger name on Twitch lately, which is cool, under A Pile of Pedals. It's him just making like meditative loop sounds for hours on a pedals. And then Joe Malcolm is on bass.
Nice.
Yeah. So they're my dudes, and we haven't practiced in a year, man. Like I think this week was our last practice because our last show was last January at the Triple Door with an orchestra.
So you guys recently just got together and had a practice?
No, I'm sorry. A week ago, a year ago. I'm sorry.
A year ago.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and that's I've been rocking since I was 13, and that's the longest I've gone. I think like 3 weeks is the longest I've ever gone without a band practice since I was 13 years old. Yeah. So it's crazy shit.
I remember those days, 3 nights a week, going out to band practice.
Yeah. So and that's how you get good. Right.
Yeah.
That's how you get tight. It's very clear who practices and who doesn't practice.
Yeah. We used to share space with a local band that would only practice the hour before they had a show to play. They would, if we were in there practicing, they'd come bang on the door. Hey, do you guys care if we run through our set real quick? We got a show tonight.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There's a lot of I've got some nerd music peers who I won't throw under the bus who I know do that as well.
Yeah.
Stresses me out. I'm like, guys, but it always works out for them.
So now with the whole quarantine and everything,
Yeah.
since you said you haven't practiced or played a show in a year, in the meantime, you've been doing this little thing called the Quarantine Cast.
I was doing that for a while. Yeah.
Now, did you, because the last time I looked, because you're on my YouTube subscription, but it looks like the last one said something about you've moved over to Twitch.
Yeah, I was doing that. I was doing that for about 2 months and interviewing my friends, and I was deep in it. And I kind of stopped after George Floyd got murdered, just because it felt a little weird to be self-promoting or whatever version of that. And no, it's not a slam against people that were still doing that. I just didn't feel like it was right for me at the time. Also, having full-time daycare of my 4-year-old was really starting to get a little more intense. Yeah. And it was just kind of an exercise in, well, I could keep this up, but I know I'm going to crash and burn. And I don't know how long we have left for this. So now I stream on Twitch 2 days a week at 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's like playing songs, talking stories. I'll show you this. We've been reading from the Rick Ross autobiography.
Nice.
Every day for about 10 minutes each time. So, just kind of like free form and kind of a come as you are hang.
Cool. Yeah. So your 4-year-old, is she a Kirby Krackle fan?
She is starting to be. Like she'd been to see me at conventions before, and when I play, she's like, "That's my dad," but she didn't really get like what I do. But now, like, she asked to listen to Booty Do Math or Roll Over. She was singing Booty Do Math the other day, which was pretty fun. Like, that was like a special thing for me. I hadn't experienced that yet. I'm always trying to get her in the studio to record her voice, because I noticed her voice is really changing lately, and I want to be able to keep these memories. But yeah, she went to 2 conventions with me. The funniest one was in Spokane, Washington, 2 years ago. And I was teaching her how to sell CDs, right? Like, okay, there's people come up and they might want to look, but it's not like a high pressure thing. And she's like, "What's a high pressure thing?" I'm like, "Well, you just let people listen, and they want something, they'll let you know." And so they came up, and the first thing she says is, she goes, "You can buy a CD or you can go away." When she was 3.
Yeah, kids are pretty awesome.
And I was like, hold up. In some situations you want to say that, but no, that's not, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got 3 kids, and when E for Everyone came out, I like to listen to my music in the car, but you got to be kind of selective what you listen to when you got kids, because my youngest would have been 5 or 6 at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I would listen to a lot. I had a mix of a lot of nerd music, the clean nerd music, and so I would listen to a lot of Kirby Krackle in the car. And one of their favorite songs, it's funny, "Going Home" was my youngest daughter's most favorite song for the longest time.
Wow.
And I don't think she'd never, she was 5 years old. She'd never been to a comic book convention. She didn't understand what it was about, but she just whenever that song would come on, I'd look back in the rear view, and she'd be back there playing the drums and singing along, and
something about the melody or something.
This is a Kirby Krackle household right here.
Thank you.
Is what I'm trying to tell you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Coffee is for closers.
Coffee's for closers. You can buy a CD or you can go away. Yeah, and that was a purposeful thing that, after the first record when we did Teabagged, and then a lot of parents came up to me, they go, "Man, I like playing this for my kids. Got to skip Teabag though every time, just to let you know." Yep. And I kind of got embarrassed, like when so many parents told me that. And I obviously, I was like 30, so I wasn't thinking I didn't have kids then, so I wasn't thinking from the parental viewpoint of things. Yep. And then when I heard that enough times, I was like, okay, this is clean. This is all clean from now on. Everyone can listen to this together. We can throw little winks in there, but no blatant lyrical content.
It's funny because I wondered about that, because the first album, I would have a few of those songs in the rotation, stuff like back to the beginning and up, down, down, and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, Teabag was definitely not one of them in the rotation when the kids were in the car. And then when the second album came out, it was all clean, and I thought, I wonder if they did that on purpose. And I literally had that thought in my mind that maybe parents were telling you that we would love to play the whole album in front of the kids, but we can't.
It's like, come on, man. And it was, they were like, come on, man. And also they go, I mean, we like it, but also, so it was, it was a conscious choice on that.
Yeah. So do you have anything new? Are you working on something? I mean, like you said, you haven't gotten together with your band in over a year, but is there plans for a new Kirby Krackle album at some point?
Yeah, I just talked to my producer the other day, and he was having some people come into his studio for a while, and then it got a little hairy, and he's like, I don't, when fall hit, he goes, I think I'm done with that. So, I talk a lot on social media about how it's important to do the hard work so we can get out of here. And so, I'm trying to be an example of that and not practice what I preach that way. So, when things, I don't think we're going to have a full album again until fall, probably. I would think we might start doing some remote stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been releasing a lot of singles. I have more singles coming out. I'm just trying to put like stuff out there. But as far as like a full front to back Jim Mahfood album cover experience, as far as an official album, that might be a little bit. But yeah, there's stuff coming out though.
Well, and the nice thing about this day and age is you can literally do remote recording. You could do an entire album with the full band, with people living in different areas of the United States. Mm-hmm. But there's also that price that you pay where there's just something a bit more special about everybody being in the same room.
Yeah. Playing
that song, even if it's just for the drum track, just to get the drum track down with everybody in the same room playing the song. And then you go back and you overdub the guitars and the vocals and all that stuff. But
if we can just get the drums, that's a big deal, right? Yeah. And that's also hard. Like, unless you have a studio that's built for that, if you have all the mics, that's just not a situation a lot of people have. So it's coming. And I also part of me wants to fully go through this experience maybe before we start writing for it even. Like, I want it to be, in a perfect world, at least how I think now, like a definite line in the sand. Mm-hmm. Like, this is my thoughts after going through this, not release something that's kind of in the middle of it. Again, we have some singles coming out that's about the middle of it. But as far as like a celebratory, finally being able to do Crackle Fest fantasy where everyone's there and we're all tight and we can give people the show they deserve. That's something that I'm going to hold, in here to do a certain way.
But you're still putting stuff out. You did a Quarantine and that wonderful I Want to Social Distance with You. That's such a great song. And then you still do your yearly Christmas songs.
Yep. Just put that out.
And in fact, you put that out. You put an album out of all your Christmas songs, right?
I did, a couple of years ago. I'm Trapped in a Human Centipede for Christmas with the worst album cover ever, maybe, like in terms of Yuletide celebration. Yeah. Looking a little too happy to be on the front of the centipede. And so, that was a collection of songs from over the years and also Patreon songs that I had put out. Yeah. And there's one that never made it out because it was hit with a copyright tag, even though it wasn't violating anything. Nerd Rocking Around the Christmas Tree was going to be on that record. I might put that out, try again at some point, because I think it just got tangled up somehow. But working on some new songwriting techniques. I'm taking an advanced songwriter class to learn some new tricks. And so that's been fun and challenging. And you kind of have a peer group in there where everyone shows their songs. And that's kind of for non-nerdy stuff, but it's more just about arrangement and vibe and melodies and stuff.
And did I hear somewhere that you write songs for other folks? Did you have a job at one point where you were writing songs for people? Or
I did, yeah. I worked for a company in Hawaii for a while, where I would write stuff for like Hallmark Channel style movies, and that was like the year or two before Kirby Krackle started, and like kind of overlapping with that. But that's also kind of what this class is about how to pitch songs to other artists, because I have a lot of stuff that isn't, I like, but doesn't really fit with the Kirby Krackle deal. Mm-hmm. and yeah, I like to dabble in like, rap tracks kind of, and I like to dabble in, singer-songwriter, Indigo Girl-esque Lilith Fair jams. That's kind of what Suburban Hearts was for me.
Yeah.
And also just like full on rock. So part of what I do now when I write Kirby Krackle songs is I look and I say, what are the tools that we already have? Before E for Everyone, we didn't have a real, fast song like Great Lakes Avengers or something like that. So that was like, okay, I want that song. I want to be able to play this song live. I want to have this kind of arc to a show. You don't want to be flat.
Yeah.
You want to have peaks and valleys and kind of take people on a journey. So, we have so many songs now, and there's only like 15 songs on the set list that you kind of have to pick and choose what you want that to be. So if we're not playing a certain older song as much anymore, I need like a new faster song that kind of fit that slot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I like about you guys. Cause you'll have songs like North of the Wall, which is just really pounding and in your face. And then you'll have just frickin' Grandma's House is probably one of my favorite songs. I just love that tune. And then you have your ballads. Yeah. I can't think of the name of that song off of E for Everyone that I love so much.
Henchman?
Ballad. Henchman is freaking great. Yes. I'm thinking of the ballad though. What's the ballad of
I should know this.
She makes him want to clean his action figure case.
Oh, Dusty Cartridges.
Dusty Cartridges.
Yeah.
Love that song.
Thanks, man.
It's so funny. And it's just a good tune. Now, speaking of E for Everyone, I remember around the time that album came out, you were trying to start a campaign to get ring capacity during the ending credits of the Green Lantern movie, which didn't work out. Are you looking back on that? Are you pretty okay with that song not being at the end of that movie?
Yeah. I mean, it was funny because Jim and I went to go see it. My ex-partner, Kirby Krackle, Jim Demonakos, and I went to go see it at the theater together, an afternoon show. And by the end, we looked at each other. We're like, okay, good thing that didn't, not good thing, but we weren't stoked about the movie. And granted, when I look back on it now, it's like, I'd like to watch it again. I haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah. No, it's true.
But, now the fantasy is, who do I know at, who is nobody? I need to figure it out. But who do I know at HBO to work out that miniseries? And again, it's like, I'm also aware that the trend right now for shows like that isn't to put pop music really in them, right? It's like a lot of stuff is orchestrated and epic sounds, but I don't know. Maybe the circle's coming around again, man. Maybe they need a pop rock song.
Look at some. I mean, you think of movies now like Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad. I think Suicide Squad tried a little hard with their pop music influences, but I think there's still room there. I think you guys still got a shot.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that song still has life. I feel like a lot of these songs, even though they're like 5-6 years old, have life. So
ring capacity is, there's nothing about that song that's going to get old because it's an evergreen. It's cool. You're just touching on the basics of who Green Lantern is, and none of that's changed.
Yeah, that's not going to change, right? Like, that's the goal. Is like, what's the root of the character, not. The goal has always been not what is the new costume, that's going to change, but like, what's the meat and potatoes, basic ass DNA of this, right?
What's the new costume? How can we tell the same origin story, just slightly different?
Yeah.
But it's all the same. It's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
So like I said, you're still doing singles. Did you say you've kind of stopped the quarantine cast, or what you're doing on Twitch is a little different? Or
on Twitch, it's not so much special guests. It's just kind of like more music and hangs and free form. I haven't done the quarantine cast since June because I just had to take a break, and then I kind of really had to think about what did I want to do. I think for me, and for a lot of artists, when it became clear this is a long-term situation, I kind of wanted to take a step back and look and say, what's going to sustain me? What is doable, both physically and mentally, for this nebulous amount of time that we have? And so for me right now, that takes place in the Twitch sphere. But I pop into YouTube and Facebook and stuff and still do still do stuff there from time to time. The goal of Twitch was to get everyone into one space. And though, you know, a lot of people who are watching on Facebook and YouTube have moved to Twitch. I was just talking with my guitar player who's very successful on Twitch about this. It's like not everyone has, because it's just asking for another thing too. You know what I mean? Like I'm aware of that too. It's like people don't necessarily want to sign up for a whole nother thing. And so that's why I still, you know, go to YouTube and Facebook and check in.
Yeah. Right now I can't watch Twitch on my TV. I can watch YouTube on my TV.
Yep.
Can't get that Twitch out there on the TV.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I hear about when people watch on their TV is for Apple TV, but also the UI is an interesting experience with that.
Yeah. Into the Lanternverse.
Yes. Let's all step in. I'm stoked about Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight though. So I wore this today to contribute to that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty sweet. Looking forward to that. And then we've got, of course, coming up right away, we got WandaVision starting. Yeah. Is that's next week?
15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited, man. I think it's just going to be weird and different enough. I mean, all the reviews I read is people like, oh, they pulled this off too. Who knew? Yeah,
I've heard it's basically a 9-hour movie. You put it all together and it's basically a 9-hour movie, which kind of has me a little excited. Yeah. So what are you nerding over right now? What's got your little nerd heart fluttering?
What am I nerding over? I bought the Absolute Wildcats big trade from Image off Amazon the other day. It's over there. It's just thick. It's like this big book, just kind of, you know, Wildcats 1 through 10, I think, from Image Comics in the early 90s. If people don't know what that is, one of Jim Lee's first book, right? After leaving Marvel. And then there's also like 5 issues of Cyberforce in there, which I didn't know. So I was really excited about that. I've kind of been trying to go back to like the roots of like what really got me excited about comics.
Yeah.
And that's a time that really got me excited. Like I'm trying to, as we're going through this moment and as we're stepping out of the moment, I'm trying to really refine what I like about Kirby Krackle and what I want to do. And I know it came from that place. So sometimes I'll go back to things that were influential to me or really made me excited to kind of tap into that thing again to see if I've got all the juice out of, you know, subject A. But I finished the Viking series. If you ever watched that on, what channel was that?
It was a History Channel show.
Yeah. And my wife and I have been watching that since day one, and that's one of our favorite shows. So that just wrapped up on Amazon Prime. And if no one's seen that, if you've been interested, that's one of my favorite shows of all time.
I've seen the first few seasons. I keep meaning to get back to it. I need to get back to it because, it is really enjoyable.
It is. And there's a lot of like, you know, it's not a spoiler, but there's time jumps. And that's where I think a lot of people, just like what you said, they watch it for a few seasons and maybe think like, okay, it's going to be more of this, but it gets freaked out and it's really cool. So I highly recommend that. Just been really trying to get into production lately. Like been nerding out about learning how to write different kinds of beats. I've been gaming a lot more than I have in years, which I think that's a lot of us who now have been doing that.
Yeah.
So I got Watch Dogs Legion. I really like that. That's a really different experience. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that kind of ties into the whole Vikings thing for me. So that's fun. And was that Marvel Ultimate 3 on Switch, Ultimate Alliance 3. Have you played those games before?
No, I'm not really a gamer.
Okay.
I'm one of those guys that, well, first of all, I can't really afford it.
Yeah.
And also if I could, my family would probably never see me. That's just that's all I would do. And so,
know thyself, right? I have a lot of friends like that. They're like, I just can't, I know it's going to take over everything. Yeah. To me, that's my little escape lately. That's my downtime.
Yeah.
So, and that's cool because I think when I started being able to do music full time, that took away a lot from my gaming time. Right. And now with that kind of on hold to a degree, it opens up different paths.
Yeah. You still play every day though, right? You play your guitar?
Oh yeah. I play guitar and write all the time. I guess when I say practice, I'm referring to with the dudes, you know. And like you said, there's nothing. I mean, I know this time has really made that feel very, very valuable to me. I mean, I always felt it was valuable, but it's taken a new place of like we have Zoom band meetups every once in a while, and we all talk individually. But the new thought is, the fantasy of what it's going to be like to play that first show again, and then realize that we have this toy, that maybe we just knew was always there and didn't really take fully to heart of what it was. But I think we all know this thing that we have together now that we can't wait to share again and just have fun with. Like, I think it's gonna be really fun.
This is my daughter speaking on my gaming ability.
Try to play Mario, but stop because it was too hard. Hey, brother, me too. I've never beat Mario Brothers. I was
getting angry.
Yeah.
It's like it's when you die for the upteenth time and your first instinct is to throw the controller across the room. It's time to walk away.
Yeah.
It's time to walk away.
I have to be very aware of that with me.
Yep.
My wife's like, I have never seen you sometimes more mad in your life than you are at games. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. That goes back.
That's how they make them, though. They have freaking psychologists and whatnot that work for the game company, and they make them that way on purpose. So it's frustrating to get through a level, but once you do, you get those freaking dopamine endorphins that just secrete your brain, and you're so, I'm ready for the next level. And then, yeah. So now I know we've got a couple of people watching right now. So if anybody has any questions for Kyle, now's your time to ask them.
Now's the time.
Because he's never going to answer another question once we're done here, ever.
Ever.
No more questions ever.
All questions are off the table until tomorrow.
So you said you're still playing, you're still writing. What comes first for you, the music or the lyrics?
That would be the music usually, and that's kind of here. I got a guitar. I got this all tuned up just in case we had to do something here. I'll show you. So like, I don't know what song. And then hopefully I can play what song you're talking about.
Oh, good Lord. Don't put me on the spot.
Or Dusty Cartridges, right?
There you go.
Dusty Cartridges. Okay. So that just started with me just kind of going. And then usually when songwriting happens, it's just like trying to get a melody, right? So it's like da 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 da, right? And you kind of figure it out. And as this guy who's teaching this class was talking about, that's just from years of listening to music. That's not like, let me just write out these melodies that mathematically are correct or work in a scale. It's just kind of like what kind of feels cool. And then you can always go back and you can try a different melody, but 99% of the time, nothing is going to be better than the first thing you came up with, because that kind of comes from that source place. And then when you get your brain involved is when it gets all messed up. It's got it's like James Brown talked about. He goes, I don't play music from here. I play music from here. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing. Like, that's what connects to people. And I don't know if Dusty Cartridge is from here, but it's you like it, so it's good.
Well, yeah, when back when I was playing, one of the bands I was in, every practice, maybe our guitar player would come in and he'd say, "Hey, I got this riff," and he'd play through the riff, and then the bass player would play along, I'd play along, and then before you knew it, we had a song. Yeah. And then our singer of course, he's not going to just write lyrics on the fly. So he'd literally just, as the song's playing, as we're playing the instruments, he'd just start belting out a melody, just and then he'd record it on tape and then go home and write lyrics to it. So.
Yeah, I think that's the way a lot of people do it, and also that gives you the chance to see. I mean, you don't want to be, then you write lyrics to those sounds, right? And you see like where the space is, or where can you. In songwriting, they say like, where do you trim the fat, right? Like, is your verse too long? Okay, do you really need to have 3 choruses? That will also change the lyrics and stuff. That's been a big part of, I feel like, my songwriting involvement over the past 5 years, maybe, is what needs to be there versus what do you want to be there. Yeah. Right. Like maybe you have, I don't know, there's no real way to show it on guitar at the moment, but how to, maybe you want to go back to the chorus again because you like it, but it's like, does the listener need to hear that? Yeah. Are they going to be like, all right, I'm done? Or do they want to go back and listen to it again? Right?
It's the same thing, even if, because I also do some writing. I've written a couple books, and they use
cool.
the term when people talk about writing. They say you have to be willing to kill your babies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because you wrote a chapter that you love doesn't mean it needs to be in the book.
No.
And so, yeah, same thing. Just because you want to go back to that that chorus for the third time doesn't mean that it should be there. So you have to be willing to take that stuff out for the betterment of the song.
And that's hard to do because there's ego wrapped up in that, right? I mean, there's all those things. That's been a learning experience for me with my dudes. Is that, I mean, even since I was 13, it's just this thing I always have to keep myself in check about. Where if there's 3 people telling me that I need to relook at something, they're not trying to be assholes. You know, they know it's not what I want to hear. Yeah, but it also shows like a level of caring, right? You want to have people that care enough to challenge something that you're working on. Or like a lyric could be better, or if they want you to push yourself and sing it higher or sing it lower. And that's part of, you know, circling back again to the live practice thing. That's so much of that stuff is done right there. When you're sending tracks back and forth, you miss those real-time engagements where maybe someone hits a wrong note, but you like go, oh, that was cool shit. Like do that again. Something that people would have never thought about if you didn't have that immediate reaction. So, you know, like live streaming technology, what we have is so amazing, and it's made this time more tolerable, right? But as you and I know, as good as this is, as much fun as we're having, if we were in the same room, it'd be even better.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I agree.
And that's the thing that I think that technology is always trying to show us we don't need, but at least to me is abundantly clear that we do, especially after this past year. I mean, if there's ever been a sign, it's, you know, what ain't fully broke is still working.
Yep. It's like technology is showing us technology can bring us closer together, but it can also show us that there's a better way to do it. Mm-hmm. This is a good bridge, but eventually we still need the face-to-face. Here's a question from one of the viewers. Is the CD format dead?
That is a question I ask myself every time when it's time to print up a new record.
Vinyl seems to be coming back. That seems to be a popular thing. But
I think the king of physical media, or a distribution model for my money right now, is vinyl and a download card. Yeah, because I feel like Kirby Krackle's gotten away with CDs for a while still because it's a piece of physical medium, right? And our people nerds like a physical thing, right? Yes. Like we want to print and we want to book. Yep. So for years, my friends and local bands were like, how are you still selling CDs? And I'm like, well, it's because it just goes with the deal. It goes with the territory. But I think, you know, even, I don't know if you're experiencing this. I am. And I hear friends like, as you get older too, you just don't want to have so much stuff. Right? Yes. Yep. And you'll be a little more picky and choosy about prints or books that you get, to not have it fully take over your life. Right? So I try to provide all avenues for people, but I think the CD is still king in terms of sound quality. But I think there will always be people that want them. But I mean, I know it's easier to fire up my record on our phone as well as you do. Yeah. It's like DVD or streaming. Mm-hmm. If I've got a movie on DVD, but it's also on Netflix, it's going to look better if I put the DVD in. But who wants to go through all that bother? Get up, get the DVD out, put it in the DVD player. You know, just hit the remote control and get it up on Netflix. So, I wish there was a way to have both. I mean, you can't have both, but it's a whole other thing. But you're right about our people, the nerd fan. You know, especially if you have a CD that features artwork from somebody like a Jim Mahfood. You know, it's not just a CD; it's a piece of art, and they can, you know, you can display it. There's so much of us, and you're right. The older you get, you kind of realize you've just got too much stuff. But you know, we buy the physical stuff and we put it up on a shelf and we say, "This is who I am. This is you know, these books, these CDs, these albums. This is who I am." And so, I get it. Yeah, I agree. And I go back and forth all the time. I mean, I look at my comic book rack right now as we're talking about what am I into, and there's a very definite cutoff date of a year of physical books. Yeah. Right. And so, might have to look at that at some point. But you don't want that necessarily, I think, to be a representation of here's who I am until this year.
Yeah.
You know.
So what are you into comic book wise?
I'm reading. I kind of live on Marvel Comics Unlimited.
Yep.
And the Hickman X-Men stuff I'm still open to. It hasn't been my favorite, but that's been kind of really what I've been diving into. Really taking a look at a lot of independent stuff lately. Finally finished Walking Dead all the way. And I haven't picked up very many new titles lately. It's kind of going back, like I said earlier, like what is appealing? What was appealing to me at the beginning of my fandom that kind of led to where I am now. So kind of doing soul searching of a lot of books from that time, like just been reading a lot of Chris Claremont stuff. He had a book come out around the time of the first X-Men stuff called First Flight and Grounded. I don't know if anyone knew about that. So I started picking that back up again. Just kind of going back and checking out the early 90s stuff, all the Image stuff. They have a great documentary on Hulu, I think it is, or YouTube, excuse me, if people haven't seen that yet, about the first, the Image years.
Yes.
And how those guys were rock stars. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I thought that was just, I was glued, man.
Yeah, that's a good one. I got a couple more questions here from our viewers. What nerd parenting advice do you have? Read kids' comics right away or wait?
Good question.
I can tell you.
You go first.
Because my oldest is 18, and I was reading comics to him right away. And he really seemed to dig them. He loved. I had a copy of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and he would just pour over that thing. He could barely read, but he loved the pictures. Yeah, I read through most of John Byrne's Fantastic Four run with him and stuff like that. But he doesn't read comics now. So my two girls didn't introduce them right away to comics, and I got one who reads comics, but she's mostly she reads a lot of manga. But it's my thought is, if you've got something to read to the kid, regardless of what it is. The more you read to your child, the more your kid's probably going to be into reading, and the more well-rounded the kid's going to be. Yeah, I agree. Just having the opportunity, right, to digest those things. I again, my daughter's 4, so we're starting about that. We went to the comic shop a lot before everything hit, and she was starting to get into My Little Pony a little bit, and just having something physical that she can mess up the pages with. I'm not going to let her hang out in the room with the Wildcats companion. I like, you must put on gloves before you touch this. But she really likes the Marvel Superhero Squad, and that's if you're aware of that, like that Disney Plus show. It's just titillating and simple enough. There's a little bit of drama, but it's simple and everything works out in little 7-minute chunks. So I think right now that's our superhero comics. Yeah. And she asked me about these people and like, what's a bad guy, and does this person want to hurt people? And it's very interesting checking out the morality questions that pop up even with the simplest of superhero stories. Yes, I got my stepdaughter into comics, so you're welcome. It's for me, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I spent a lot of money on comics in my youth. I don't anymore because I can't afford it, but it's like I would love for my kids to love something that I love, but I also don't want to give them something that they're gonna spend a lot of money on. It's one of those things that I don't want them to get as bad as I did, where they're just buying stacks and stacks of comic books that are going to sit on their shelves for months before they even read them. When because as a parent, you got better things to spend your money on, but it's one of those things. Yeah, and also that's just something to learn too, right? I mean, people have to learn those things. Yeah, exactly. Learn the lessons that we had to learn. I'm the same way. Like it got to the point where, in the third, I think by the third record of Kirby Krackle, like maybe mid 2010s, I had so many comics that I was still getting that I wasn't catching up on because we were on the road and doing like 20 conventions a year. It just like those things started to have an energy of their own. Like I want to read to digest, not read because I feel like I have to keep going. And so that's definitely been a conscious choice for me since then, of what to keep up on, and knowing that, I can't keep up on everything anymore. But I think Eddie Vedder
though he's talking about music, kind of put an analogy forth with this, saying that he goes, I want my kids to love Ramones, right? Like I want my kids to love Ramones and Fugazi and the Who, because that's what I loved. But also, One Direction and Ariana Grande are their Who and Ramones.
Yep.
Like it's from a different time. So like, what is something that you can help them put their love into that is of the now? That's also a way you can do it.
Have you ever drawn your own comic books?
I drew comic books when I was 12 for a long time. I was fully convinced I was going to work for Image Comics at 12, which of course I was not going to be. But I wrote a story in the Skull Kickers Volume 1, a compendium.
Really?
Yeah. Are you familiar with that book, Skull Kickers?
Oh yeah, that was a book that I collected. It was one of those books that I was buying off the rack.
Yeah.
At the tail end of when I stopped buying comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never finished it, and I keep meaning to. So now I've got more of a reason.
Yeah, it was a short story at the back about like this band of assassins. So Jim Zub, who's a friend, he said, hey, do you guys want to write this kind of music themed thing? And that was kind of fun. And I'd never done that before. So yeah, it was a cool opportunity to have.
Nice. All right. Well, we're coming up to the end of our hour. And I know that you've got kind of a busy day today. Is there anything you want to make sure that folks know about you, about what you've got coming out or what you have out now?
Totally. Thanks for asking. People can find me on Instagram at Kyle Stevens Music, streaming on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. And we're entering the 6th year of the Kirby Krackle fan club on Patreon. And so what I do there is I put out 2 songs every single month. I've never missed 2 songs a month since 2015.
Nice.
So there's 120 something Kirby Krackle songs that aren't on any record. They're not all original songs. Some are covers. Some are 8-bit versions of Kirby Krackle songs, acoustic versions, weird stuff. And yeah, so we've got some best of that coming out in the near future. And if you're into kind of like a nerd rock musical journal month to month, that's what that is.
Nice. That's got to be, you were saying that they're not all originals, which I got to say that would be a lot of pressure to put on yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like, I have to make sure I write at least 2 songs and record them every month. And that's got to be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, for original songs it is. And so I do it's like 1 original song a month and either a cover or an 8-bit version or something that's a little weird. Try to throw curveballs at people all the time. It's not for every fan of my music. Like some people are just fine to, of course, just check in on the albums, and that's cool too. But if you're wanting to be a part of the process in a different way or see how the soup is made, it's a different way to check in on that.
Yeah. What are your tiers on Patreon? Do you have different tiers?
Yeah, we have different tiers. There's basically it's 2 songs a month for $4. And then there's the next level one where you can be part of a live stream. And then there's some other ones like 10 or 20 where you get like a Google Hang, stuff like that. So, and again, those are maybe going to be shuffled around a little bit to kind of keep things a little fresh. But yeah, it's mostly about the music.
I'm always looking for ideas for my Patreon. When as a podcaster, there's not a whole lot that I can do, especially when you're the father of 3 kids. But I do a special podcast just for them every week. Every Friday, cool. They get an episode of my other podcast. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm always looking for other ideas. I find it interesting to see what other creative types do and what they offer their folks. Because if I'm able to steal something, I'm going to steal an idea.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're all here to inspire each other, right? And
that's right.
And also, like you said, like with 3 kids, there's, I have 1 kid. And I know there's a limit on my time. There's and what's it gonna not be a have to, and what's gonna be fun, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you want to pump out. So that's why I always tell people when they start a new Patreon, I'm like, slow the roll a little bit. You can always add more.
Yep,
if you overcommit, that's not a good place to be.
Luckily, my kids are at that age, though, because the youngest is 15, so they pretty much look after themselves. Unfortunately, that means that when we get in the car and I want to inundate them with the music that I like. It doesn't matter because they've got their phones and they got their headphones on, so they're not listening to it anyway.
Yeah.
It also means that when I leave the house, they're not excited when I come home like they used to be. I mean, do you find when you leave the house and you come home, your daughter's like, "Dad's home"? Do you get that?
It was before we were with each other all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think in a weird way, maybe even more because I'm just a constant presence. I mean, my wife thankfully still has her job, and obviously my job is put on hold till who knows when. So I'm the one who watches our daughter every day.
Yeah.
And then on actually Wednesdays for a couple hours, I can be an adult and get creative. So she's around. She's with me a lot. Mom's the special one right now, but I know she's having fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, the only person that's excited when I come home is the dog.
Mm.
So I suggest everybody get a dog.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you doing this. I tell you what, one thing I would always tell, I would always tell people about you is that you are a very friendly, generous person. I have used your music time and again on my podcast, and you've always been really cool about it. You know, I'll email you, hey, do you mind if I throw a couple of your songs on an episode? And you're always willing to let me. So,
well, thanks, man. Thanks for wanting to use it. I appreciate that.
Oh, they're great stuff.
Thank
you. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you spreading the word, and
no doubt.
People had fun today, and today is not the only day they can ask me questions.
That's true. That was all a lie. Everybody ask Kyle questions whenever you want. He's always available. Okay. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, brother.
I'm gonna end the broadcast, but we'll still be on for a minute.
Okay.
Just you.
Cool.